And welcome to the Thursday Night Tailgate. I'm Bradley Stalder. You can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder here on the Player Profiler channel. It's week 8, and we've got a new guest. His name's Jonny Tooma. He's been crushing the news desk. Welcome to the Player Profiler Thursday Night Tailgate, Jonny.
Thanks for having me, Bradley. I'm excited. Let's have some fun tonight. Let's talk some football.
Oh, for sure. I'm stoked for tonight. It was and it's Thursday kind of snuck up on me. You know, we just had football on Monday, and it's been a busy week professionally. I don't know if you know this, but I work at a high school, and so we had a lot of busy things happen at the high school this week, and it snuck up on me. I'm like, all right, we're here at Thursday night. I got some messages from friends of mine in the industry, and they're like, Bradley, have you updated your rankings yet? I'm like, no, I have not updated my rankings yet. So I spent the last half hour or so trying to figure out where I should rank some of these players. But we've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've got the Buffalo Bills. The over-under for this game is 43 points. So we're not expecting a barn burner here, Tooma. The spread is Buffalo at home -10. That means that we're not expecting a lot of points scored by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road on a short week. So how are we handling in general, how are we handling the Bills and Buccaneers players? Are we fading some of these players, or are we being a little more aggressive with Buffalo favored this much?
I'm having some really difficult decisions. Like you talked about being big favorites, Dalton Kincaid being the only active tight end tonight. It's like, how high does that push him up your rankings, right? I mean, this guy's going to be on the field. They are probably going to be scoring some points. But yeah, and then I've got a couple leagues where I have Chris Godwin in redraft, and I've actually got him on my bench. And I love Godwin, but it's just, I feel like this could be tough sledding this week, and I've got some slightly better options. So it's kind of where I'm at with the matchup.
Yeah, overall, I think this is going to be one of those games where we had the Player Profiler Twitter tweet out this link and ask the people who would win this matchup straight up. And the Buffalo Bills were overwhelmingly in the 80%. And you know what? I give Tampa more than a 20% chance to win tonight. Buffalo has really struggled as of late. Their defense has been really hampered. They are getting Ed Oliver back, but missing Matt Milano has made, a big difference in the type of offensive production that they've allowed to opposing teams. We could see that just with New England, recently. Mac Jones looked like a capable passer against this Buffalo defense. So I don't know. This game is pretty spread out. I think Tampa still has a chance with Evans and Godwin. I decided to be a little contrarian, but yeah, you got to give hats off to Baker Mayfield because he's played very well this year, getting the ball to Evans down the field and Godwin. I think Evans is one of the biggest surprises, right?
Oh yeah. I was one of the guys who was super low on him, because I didn't think Baker would be pushing it out to the boundaries like he has. He's been looking for him. And it's really cool to see. I mean, the guy's going to smash 1,000 yards again this year. He's just someone who's become kind of age defiant and no matter how much crap people can come up with, oh, he's not fast enough. Like he'll just outball you, and I was wrong about him, and I'll be the first to admit it. Like I said, I was a little higher on Godwin as just a possession guy. But I think to that point, he would be the one guy I'd feel very confident starting tonight. I mean, Rachaad White is a really good play as well because that Bills defense, to your point, just ravaged by injury. Like, I love Travis Etienne, but a couple weeks ago, that game in London when they started to drop like flies, you could see him just start breaking long runs real easy because they were down to their, third string guys. So definitely some players you can still start on the Bucs right tonight, but I like what you're saying. It could maybe be a sneaky close game too, better than what the spread is saying, better than the over under, but it's definitely a tough matchup on a short week for the Buccaneers.
So here's something interesting. Rachaad White is running back 28 in fantasy points per game per player profiler. And if y'all
Wow.
want to check out profile, of course, we've got all the stats, we've got all the data, and of course, Jonny Tooma has been crushing it with the news. So I don't know if y'all know this, but we have the news and media banner across each player's profile. So I encourage you guys, check out those news blurbs, because that's, our writers work really hard to put those together and give you really sound fantasy advice. So I implore you, take a moment. I know we love all the data and all the stats, but also the fantasy advice that is up to date by about, within a couple hours of news breaking. We try to get the news out for you guys. But here, Rachaad White, running back 28, only 11.5 fantasy points per game. He's averaging, Tooma, this is wild, 3.2 yards per carry.
Yeah, terrible.
True yard is the same. He is not like, there's no adjustment made due to offensive line or anything like that. So that's what's wild to me, is that Rachaad White he's the silent killer of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, because he's only getting 3 yards a carry. And so we've got a lot of questions in the chat, and we'll answer some of these here in just a moment. But Rachaad White was a player that I was out on this offseason. Mike Evans was a player, as an aside, was a player that I was taking at value, but not because I believed in, he would be, this top 12 fantasy option, but because he fell like to wide receiver,
he was a value.
Receiver 30, right? You just take guys, especially in best ball, where they have history of hitting, big time plays. And I did not expect this type of thing, but Rachaad White, back to it, is number 7 in routes run, number 7 in route participation, 11th in target share among all running backs. He makes his living in the passing game. I mean, let's just even look at last week's game. Week 7 against Atlanta is a microcosm of what Rachaad White can do. 13 carries, 99 total yards, but 60 of those came through the air. 6 receptions, finishes the running back 12 in PPR. We've got some questions about Rachaad White here, Tooma. Let's get to the first one. Are we going to go with Rachaad White, or are we going to gamble on Roschon Johnson?
This one's kind of easy for me. I don't want to jump at it, but I'm like, I like the talent with Roschon, but I mean, Foreman just earned snaps, right? Just like we saw with Zach Moss. Like, you can be Jonathan Taylor and still have to earn your way back and take over that backfield. Roschon's a rookie, right? So, man, that guy was in concussion protocol. Like, I didn't know you could be in it that long. Yeah, I mean, I'm really worried for the guy. But I would take the points with Rachaad, even if it is half point PPR. They just announced Sean Tucker is going to be inactive. There's absolutely nobody threatening him in terms of like quality running back. And to your point, he hasn't been very good himself, but it's even worse when there's other running backs out there. So I'm taking the guaranteed role with Rachaad. You probably drafted him in the 7th round or something like, I can't remember where he went now, but I would start him. I don't know about you, Bradley.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you're right about the Donta Foreman. I was, at the beginning of last week, a little bit lukewarm on O's Donta Foreman going to be, the play. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that if Tyson Bagent is not the answer at quarterback, like he's not going to be an effective passer, they're going to limit his passing volume, then they are going to lean on Donta Foreman, who has a history of handling 25 to 30 carries in a game. And if the Bears are in the goal line scenario, they're going to have, the ability to give Donta Foreman the ball and he can fall in. So I think that the play is Rachaad White for those reasons that you mentioned. You just can't, the Bears know what they have in Donta Foreman, and Khalil Herbert still on IR. It's going to be a two-headed monster. Probably Roschon playing more of the third downs like he did while Khalil Herbert was there. But, Rachaad White with the volume, it's going to be really hard for you to take a peripheral piece like Roschon and say, I have confidence of starting him over Rachaad White.
Yeah, you nailed that down to Foreman take on your weekly show last week. I saw that you were kind of similar, like echoed that, he could see a lot of the work. They've got a rookie quarterback. They've still got that. I'm sure the game, their offense will run through the running backs. But I like the fact that he's starting, and, we could totally be wrong on this, but it feels like you'd be lucky if Roschon hit for you. And I think it's more expected. You'd expect Rashad to at least get you 10 points. So I'd go with Rachaad White.
Yeah, it's pretty risky there. Fantasy Football Ninja is asking a very generic question. Is Rachaad White a strong start tonight? And here's the thing. Strong, number one, strong is a relative term. And number two is we're talking about every team playing this week. Last week we had a bunch of teams on bye. We're now on week 8. And Rachaad White, I have inside my top 24. But he's at 21 for me this week. I mean, barring, some last minute things. But Chase Edmonds was activated for this game. Keyshawn Vaughn is also active for this game. So I expect that Vaughn and Chase Edmonds are going to get a couple touches sprinkled in here and there. I don't think it's going to impede Rachaad White from getting into that top 24 due to the volume. And especially if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are behind. If they're projected to lose, that means they're probably going to be throwing it, which means they're probably going to be dumping it off to Rachaad White. So I could see Rachaad White in full PPR being a much stronger start than in a half PPR or a standard league scenario. So I think that's like the range of outcomes for Rachaad White is ceiling is top 12 week, floor is probably running back 40. So you've got a range of 12 to 40. So I would not say strong start.
Yeah, and this guy didn't call out like half point PPR, full point, but we'll assume full point, and that makes it a little better, right? Because you mentioned he gets a lot of work through the air. It's just such a tough state of the running back position too, that you're probably in a position where you should start him if you're even asking this question. But ideally, no, like I want to have guys like Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs, right, in my lineup. And those are strong starts at running back. So hopefully that helps answer his generic question with some generic answers.
Well, let me give some players that I have ranked right now ahead of Rachaad White. And look, like what people love to do is like they love to screen clip these and like clown me later if I'm wrong, but I don't care. Here we go. I have ahead of Rachaad White, I have Donta Foreman, Aaron Jones, James Cook, Joe Mixon, Bijan, Derrick Henry. Like you're starting those players. You're starting Jonathan Taylor. Like at that point, you're just trying to get cute, But Rachaad White ahead of Alexander Mattison, ahead of Ramondre Stevenson, ahead of Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt, ahead of Kareem Hunt. That's the line of demarcation for me for Rachaad White.
I feel like there's maybe a little bit of Packers fan in you that's like has Jones above him. Like Jones is electric. He's one of my favorite guys, but man, has this just been like, I just can't trust it until I see him put 2 or 3 healthy games together at this point, playing above, or he never really plays 50% of the snaps and doesn't need to put up 30 points. Right. But like, I want to see him get back to that role a little bit. And I love the guy, but I just am like, I know you're a Packers fan, so.
Oh, can you tell? Can you tell by the jersey and the Green Bay Packers helmets behind me? Yes. So I try to, mask my bias, but sometimes it's invincible.
It's embedded, yeah.
Daniel also asked about Kincaid tonight, and I think that's an important question because Kincaid is coming off of a career game where he had 8 receptions for 70 yards. Dawson Knox, as you mentioned, is out. Quentin Morris is also out. The 2 tight ends playing behind Kincaid. And there's been some reports about moving to 11 personnel, and that's the obvious reason is there's no other tight ends to play, which may mean more inline work for Kincaid. He may be up to having to block a little bit more because there isn't a Dawson Knox out there. I have Kincaid at 10 right now, ahead of Logan Thomas. So I think that like the consensus is around 9 or 10 right now. I understand people want to be really bullish, but this is a game that low scoring. The Tampa Bay defense is usually pretty stingy. Sometimes they'll give up plays here or there, but they're not going to give it up to Dalton Kincaid. And then we're also looking at he's going to be blocking more, so he's going to be running fewer routes and maybe he takes a hit, or maybe he has to stay in.
Yeah.
He's not going to run those routes as much, or those design routes. So I wonder if 10 is just a fair hedge at this point, because we like the opportunity, but if the game's out of hand, they're not going to like throw it to the middle of the field to Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think when I look at it, I also see half PPR right in the question, and I'm like, Knox being out, that was always Allen's go-to guy in the red zone, among others, but he could catch a touchdown. And I think the fact that he's stepping into that role, or has to assume some sort of role like that, I'm so bullish on him. I liked Laporta at the value in dynasty drafts and stuff, but I'm at the point where I have a redraft league where I've got Laporta and Kincaid, and I'm like, man, is this the Kincaid game where he proves why he was taking over Laporta? Like, there's no other active tight ends. It's not the best matchup against Tampa Bay, but I'm definitely firing him up over Logan Thomas. I've got him like in that range of, am I firing him up over Sam Laporta? Now, I decided against that because that is a little too bullish, but I mean, Sam Laporta's been fantastic, but I think that's what we all wanted when we thought of Kincaid going to play with Josh Allen and the Bills. So,
all right. Well, speaking of injuries and injury tight ends, I need you to hear from Matthew Kelly about our Injury Finder app.
Now, as we at PlayerProfiler have become a full-blown machine learning company, the crowning achievement has to be the Injury Finder. We're now taking BMI data and injury history data and assigning a probability that a player is injured on any given touch. And not only can you see a player's fragility rating, their injury risk, we also have analysis from professional physical therapists breaking down all the major players that underwent surgery last year and what their rehabilitation looks like heading into 2023. There's a tool to compare players. There's a database where you can say, show me all the foot injuries, show me all the severe injuries, show me all the injuries requiring surgery. It provides you the key market intelligence to know what is the difference in probability that player X versus player Y will miss games this year. It's great for fantasy football, and it also just satisfies your curiosity as a fan. Go to the App Store, go to Google Play, download it. It's $5 every year just to reload the latest injury predictions and fragility ratings. The 2023 data is live now. Open your phone and get smarter.
So
that's
cool.
Right. It is so cool. PlayerProfiler has a lot of awesome apps.
Yeah, like being new to the news writing desk and stuff, like I told some of my buddies and they were like, oh my God, that is so cool. Like I use their data. And it's a fantastic website with a lot of stuff. And I'm still learning some of it too, like peeling it back like an onion. I just can't believe some of the stuff that we're able to get our hands on. So really cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, this is great. It's awesome having you on, Tooma. We're going to keep grinding through some of these questions. We're going to be on for about 12 more minutes, 10 more minutes, because as I said, I need to do some updating to my rankings. And that's about 15 minutes before game time to make sure that, I'm not missing anything. Everything is all set. So this usually goes, the Thursday Night Tailgate goes from 7:30 to 8 o'clock on Thursdays. And it's my pleasure to have Jonny Tooma, one of our news desk writers, on with us tonight. We've got another question. Are we going to play Chris Godwin or Amari DeMarcado, running back for Arizona? This is half PPR, if that makes a difference.
It kind of does, right? With Godwin being a PPR PPR machine and not getting in the end zone as much. But I don't know about you. I pretty quickly am like, I don't want to get too cute here. I'm firing up Chris Godwin. But, I wrote an article on DeMarcado, right? He's seeing a lot of the snaps. He saw 80% last week, scored over 10. This is in PPR fantasy points. I think it would have been just under in half. I'm still rolling with Godwin, but I get the question. Like, you've got a guy who's going to fill in and maybe take a lot of that work. I think people were like wondering, where's Keontae Ingram, right? Like, why didn't he was there one week and then he was gone the next, and will he come back this week? I don't have that answer for you. So I'm going with Chris Godwin. I know he is the wide receiver too for the Buccaneers. So
Yeah, Demercado over the last 3 weeks, 2 of those finishes has been as a top 24 running back or better. But one of those games, he had a touchdown, so that got him, up into those fantasy points. But as you mentioned, he took over 80% of snaps in week 7, 13 for 58, 4 receptions, 17 yards. And we like that type of involvement. But even so, only 10 fantasy points in half PPR. That's not going to get it done when you're thinking about, how the Buffalo Bills were vulnerable. They were giving up plays up the middle of the field. And that's why, like, Chris Godwin, who makes his living in the middle of the field, is I think the play, even in half PPR. And then if they're trying to catch up, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are trying to catch up, they're probably going to be throwing a lot more, which means Godwin's going to get an increase of targets. And I have Godwin at wide receiver 28. I have Demercado outside my top 30 for right now of running backs. But I understand the question. You kind of do want more touchdown equity and possibility. Demercado only has 1 on the season. Chris Godwin, on the other hand, 0 touchdowns on the season. So,
right. But I like your point about him eating over the middle, and I'll let you wrap. But I got a question I want to bounce off you when you're done with your take.
Sure. So Godwin over the last 3 games has been a top 28 wide receiver or better each of the last 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question is Chris Godwin, full PPR, or George Pickens. That's where I'm at, where I'm like, that's a pretty good, you know what I mean? George Pickens has been productive. He had like 1 bad game all year. He hasn't been getting quite the amount of targets as Chris Godwin, but I'm like, I like Godwin, the player, so much, but I think I'm starting to turn, and this is a pretty good matchup Pickens has against Jacksonville. So that one's tough for me. As of now, I have Pickens in my lineup, but I'm like, man, you do bring up a good point. The Bills are kind of susceptible over the middle. I think the Bucs will have to throw to stay in the game. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, give me Pickens, though. Deontay Johnson was DNP today.
Good point.
Freiermuth is out, and Pickens has been a dog. Like, a lot of people were hating on him in the offseason. I was not one of those people. I attributed a lot of his inefficiency last year to him still recovering from that ACL injury that he was rushed back from back when he was playing in Georgia. And he deserved that 2nd-round draft capital. And had he been healthy, probably would have been a 1st-round pick. He's just a dog. He had, like, Cody Carpentier has the dog ratings, and off the charts with George Pickens. So give me all of the George Pickens. It's going to be so hard for me to root against this guy. I have Pickens in my top 25 ahead of Godwin so far this week.
Cool. Yeah, I'm really happy with the way that team's shaking out, having them both. And I've got Devontae Adams too. It's a 12-team league, so I'm like, and Tank Dell, so I got some solid wide receivers.
Yeah, that's pretty good, especially with Robert Woods not expected to play.
Yeah, that's another article you can find written by your boy. Like I said in that article, fire up Tank Dell this week. CJ Stroud does well with no pressure. Panthers are abysmal at getting pressure on the quarterback. I could see him, Collins and Dell both being fantasy friendly this weekend. So,
all right, we got a couple more questions. We're going to go lightning round for the next 5 minutes. Great. We've got a question about Kenneth Walker. 2 questions about Kenneth Walker, but this one is related to Rachaad White or Kenneth Walker. I would probably still hold out hope that Kenneth Walker plays. That's how I would handle it for right now. And I would just say, Rachaad White has a limited ceiling, but you can probably replace close enough on the waiver wire. I mean, depends on what you have on your waiver wire, but that's kind of the line of demarcation. Like, if you have the Demercados still on your waiver wire, you still have, Latavius Murray on your waiver wire. Oh, I guess Latavius Murray plays tonight. That's not going to work. But like, if you have Tyler Algier, Roschon Johnson on your waiver wire, like, those are types of plays that I would be willing to keep Kenneth Walker in my lineup, bench Rachaad White, and see what happens?
I like that answer. I have Walker in one league, and I'm kind of just like, the Seahawks sometimes do this injury reporting stuff, and normally, like, it's very cryptic. But I think he plays. He's been extremely productive. He is just such a talent to watch. It's a terrible matchup against that Cleveland defense, but that Pete Carroll's going to run the damn ball anyways, and they'll probably still score 2 touchdowns if he only gets 30 yards. So you got to start him if you got him, and you got to hold out hope he plays. I agree with you.
So the next question is just a name and then a question mark. Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir, I have at wide receiver 76 right now. I mean, you're not playing him unless you're in like a 32-team league and you've got like no hope. I don't know.
The answer we can just move. Is no. Like, just no.
Shout out to Slayton, showing over $2. If you want your chats prioritized, you can certainly do that by doing the starred chat. PPR flex Dell, Roshan, Christian Watson, or JSN. Tyler Lockett also not practicing today. I think we go with Tank Dell. We need to see it from Christian Watson. We need to see it again for JSN because Bobo actually played ahead of JSN for most of the game. And then Roshan, we mentioned, is just too risky with the split. So I think Tank Dell is the play. What do you think?
I'm glad. Yeah, this guy, thanks for the $2. And I'm glad we can be in firm agreement that I think Tank Dell is the play for this guy here. I like Christian Watson as a talent, and he's back practicing as of tonight, Thursday night. But he's too injury prone for me I want to your point, see him put it together, string it together. You've got Robert Woods out. It's a matchup where Stroud should have time to sit in the pocket, throw the ball, dissect the Panthers defense. I think Dell will be a beneficiary of that. I love JSN as a talent, but again, that's that Cleveland defense who's been pretty tough against the pass as well as the run. I'm staying away from him. And I'm leaning into Dell on this one. It's tough when you got a rookie like him, but you got to have some blind faith and know that the guy's been a baller. He balled out at Houston last year. So
for sure. Trey Palmer over 3 receptions. Trey Palmer has not had 3 receptions in a game the whole season. Sorry, fans of Football Ninja. That would be surprising to me. So Sayward comes back and says, Pepperidge Farms will remember this. Now, Khalil Shakir, I did have at wide receiver 76, but the consensus for Khalil Shakir is wide receiver 97. So come at me, Sayward. Come at me.
You're high on him.
Like, let's go. It's whatever. But Khalil Shakir, I am like 20-something spots ahead of consensus on Khalil Shakir tonight. Whatever. Come at me, Sayward. I'm just not willing to go any higher than 76. People will start drug testing me after the podcast, just like they drug tested Jonathan Taylor. Okay. Anyways, we've got about another minute or two. Let's see. Gooner Boy asks about Ramondre Foreman, Rachaad White. We got to pick 3. I mean, you go with James Cook here. You're going with Javonte Williams. I think you go with Rachaad White. Unfortunately, Roshan and Foreman are splitting the carries, and I don't want to hedge.
I'm leaning Ramondre, Foreman, and Cook. Maybe that's just because they're the first 3, but I'm like, I think you're starting to see a turn in Ramondre. Foreman, I think they one more week, man, after he looked really good last week. And then James Cook is probably the easiest of the bunch for me. Javonte, I'm a Broncos fan. You see it back there. It's just tough, man. I do well by shorting my own team. I'm like, sit all my Broncos, start everyone who plays against them, and it works really well for me.
It does work really well. Let's see. Any others that we can get to? We hit on Gooner Boy. Yeah. Sayward says 11-man personnel. There have been reports. All right. We have 13 minutes left until kickoff. We're going to leave y'all with this. Tooma and I are going to leave you with a gift. We're going to leave you with a gift. There have been reports that Andy Isabella is going to be involved in tonight's game. and is going to be running out of the slot. And so there have been reports, and I just want to put it in the ether, that Andy Isabella was not deactivated, but instead is expected to be active for tonight's game. And if they're moving into 11 personnel, there's going to be a rotation of Deontay Hardy, Khalil Shakir, and Andy Isabella. And all Andy Isabella needs is one play to justify me ranking him where I do. Because as we all remember, Andy Isabella was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals way too early.
Yeah, what, like second or first freaking round? Something crazy.
It's like a second round pick. Andy Isabella was 4.31 speed, a 79th percentile speed score. He was the 30th overall pick in the second round, and has been a complete bust his whole career, but somehow made his way onto the Bills. And there have been reports that he is not only active, but going to be part of the game plan tonight. So y'all heard it here. If it flops, get in the comments and tag me. But we are here to make the call. Bold calls are being made, Tooma. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a lot of fun. Where can the people find your stuff? What drops do you want to make tonight?
I mean, PlayerProfiler.com. You'll see we're one big team, right? So anything from there has come from the heart. But I'm on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, FF Academy Jonny, Jonny. And yeah, I love that you just like debunked the Khalil Shakir thing, like nipped it right in the bud. You said, no, the answer to your Khalil Shakir question is Andy Isabella. Good stuff, bro. Bradley, you were also the first person like in the entire country on the Rico Dowdle RB2 train. I believe people were still investing like tons of fab into Malik Davis. So yes, I love it. You dig deep and you find that good stuff. So thank you for the gift.
You are welcome. Anything for y'all. One last plug. Check out The Dominator this weekend on Saturday, 9 p.m. Billy Musio and I do that weekly. It is one of my favorite podcasts to do. In fact, it is my favorite podcast to do because Billy and I go way back. We've been doing this darn thing since 2020, since the pandemic, and we just have so much fun. And you just put your start-sit questions in, and Billy and I are some of the best rankers in the industry. You know, Billy finished 6th overall this past week. I finished 15th the week before. Like out of over 200 rankers, we've been crushing the rankings, and so you're getting some of the best advice in the business with us on 9 o'clock. Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Tune in to Player Profiler. Check out The Dominator. Jonny, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for joining me tonight. On behalf of Jonny Tooma, I'm Bradley Stalder. Until next time, good luck in Thursday Night Football, everyone.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you, allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.